Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating philosophical story, one that's set in this place called the City of Ash Hues. It takes a premise we all think we know, making a deal with the devil, and just flips it completely on its head.
So let's just get right into it. We're going to explore a story where making a pact with a shadowy figure doesn't actually lead to damnation. Instead, it leads to a radical and honestly, a kind of terrifying form of liberation.
All right, so our journey starts in a place called the Marketplace of Distractions. Perfect name, right? It's here that our traveler meets a master of words, a rhetorician named Mephistopheles, and he makes let's just say, a very peculiar offer.
And this line right here, this is the core of his pitch. Mephistopheles is so good with language, and he presents this idea not as some simple truth, but as this incredibly well-laid trap, designed specifically for someone who is just desperate for enlightenment.
So, the traveler agrees. The contract is signed. But this is not your standard deal with the devil. No, this one's written in what the story calls the ink of negation. So, what does that even mean? What is actually being traded away here?
Well, here are the terms. Our traveler trades away the boundless spirit of becoming. You know, that fire in your veins, that feeling of endless potential. And in return, he gets the leaden spirit of gravity. That's the anchor of security, the thing that pulls us all down toward the mundane.
Now, with the contract signed and sealed, Mephistopheles becomes a guide, leading the traveler through the City of Ash Hues. And his whole purpose? To pull back the curtain on the grand illusions that hold our society together. He starts by pointing out what he calls gilded cages. These are the things society holds most dear, our most cherished institutions. They look golden, they feel safe, but he argues their real function is to lock up the human spirit, using our own collective fear as the bars. And his targets are pretty clear. Things like marriage, church authority, which he just dismisses as congealed blood, and all that institutional pride. He's arguing that these aren't structures of meaning at all. They're just fractal patterns of fear, built for one thing: preservation, not passion.
You see, this whole systematic deconstruction, it's not just some intellectual game. It leads to this deeply personal and dramatic climax for our traveler, who, it turns out, has been putting on a performance his entire life. It turns out our traveler is a jester, and he's been wearing this heavy mask of beaten gold. But this mask, it's more than just a disguise. It's a kind of intellectual censorship, a way to hide his true self from what the story calls the universe's honest sound. And then it happens. The stage beneath his feet, that whole carefully constructed platform of his life, it splinters and completely collapses. He plummets, falling into the raw, damp earth of what Mephistopheles calls the vile economy, a system where everything is transactional and any real sentiment is a liability. This fall, it forces a confrontation with the logic of zero. It's that brutal, soul-stripping realization that an unearned status, a life lived behind a mask, adds up to exactly nothing, absolute insignificance. But it's right here, in this moment of total, crushing disillusionment, that the true nature of the contract finally becomes clear. This was never, ever about damnation. This is the big twist, the Faustian inversion. A classical bargain is for worldly power, right? And you pay with your soul. The end result is damnation. But in this contract, the goal is liberation. The currency isn't your soul, it's your illusions. The devil here is a deconstructor, and the outcome is this painful, but ultimately profound self-affirmation. It kind of makes you think, maybe the real devils we face aren't the ones tempting us with power, but the ones just trying to keep us comfortable in our own illusions.
So, stripped of his mask, his stage, all his illusions, the traveler goes through one last massive transformation. He's not a seeker anymore. He's not a jester. He's something else entirely.
This whole process, it was never really about destruction. It was about negation as a creative act. By shedding the mask, enduring that fall, and staring right into the void, the traveler clears a path. Not for nothingness, but for a relentless, powerful affirmation of his own existence. He becomes a gardener of the abyss. He learns that meaning, symbolized here by these white lilies growing right out of the rot, it's not some gift from the heavens. It's something you have to cultivate yourself, right from the wreckage. It's the hard-won fruit of tragic but necessary exchanges. And this, really, is the crucial takeaway. True freedom isn't found by escaping the abyss or trying to pretend it isn't there. It's found by learning to dance within it, reclaiming that spirit of becoming not in spite of the void, but right in its very heart. It really leaves us with a provocative question, doesn't it? What gilded cages are we living in? And what illusions are we trading for our own sense of gravity?